You are now live.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So Ellen, with this left here, there was nothing about home weatherization assistance in it, was there?
No, there wasn't.
There was, I'm reading Energy Savings Account Partnership Pilot Program.
Yep.
Okay, walk us through it.
So Ellen Tchaikovsky, Office of Legislative Counsel, you will recall that S269 is an extension of the Energy Savings Account Partnership Pilot Program.
Right.
Your committee worked on that to define exactly how the program should be extended. House Energy looked at the bill and they did not make any changes to it. However, the bill then went to Ways and Means.
Oh.
And Ways and Means added 2 pieces of language.
Okay.
They added the weatherization language that you heard about yesterday from OEO. It's a very small change, changing their their funding or their it goes up every year, and currently in the statute it's based on the CPI. But the language in the amendment changes that so that it is based on actual costs of labor and material.
Okay, yes, right. We have the testimony from the car. Okay.
And then the second change is a reauthorization and extension of Veggies. And I can't actually talk in depth about Veggie. I don't really know anything about it, but it's a very short change. So Section 4 is adding that any awards for Veggie granted by the Vermont Economic Progress Council between January 1, 2021 and the enactment of this act are authorized by the General Assembly. And then Section 5 further clarifies that applications for Veggie can be accepted until January 1, 2024. So I guess the program was supposed to expire January 1, 2021, and then there have since been some awards, but I don't actually know the details of what all happened there.
Okay. So we need to hear from somebody from Veggie. It sounds like it expired. One of those things that probably fell through the cracks while we were remote and didn't get so we're reauthorizing Veggie. And we are
Yep, and then extending it until January 1, 2024.
okay. And extending it for another 2 years. Okay. Yes, Senator, we moved on to 269 because I didn't think you would want us to do Reigate without you. Or the rest. 269. Well, we're bouncing our numbers around here, trying to deal with lack of a quorum because everybody's in other committees. Okay, so we need, I think, just to touch base with Veggie. And Faith, if you could drop them a line and see if someone might be available to talk with us.
Sure, that's Abby Sherman, right?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you. I'll try to get her.
See if she can zoom in and tell us what's going on there. All right. And we are going to have to go on to Reigate. But we're going to have to repeat it as.
Not the same Reigate we dealt with in the previous session, is it?
Yes, it's the same right. There's only one Reigate. We set Reigate, well, we set Reigate out last year. They came back this year.
We did one year.
Yeah, but then it went to the House.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is what the House has done. We are not the sole word here.
Okay.
But I want to see.
We had a presentation. Natural score. This one.
Okay, so you and Senator Bray have both been briefed on this?
We have,
Okay. So Ellen, since two of my senators have been briefed, I don't know when Senator Pearson is likely to be back. Or Senator Hardy.
so the,
Why don't we let Ellen walk us through it? Okay, Ellen, why don't you walk us through what they've done?
Sure. So in S-161, you will recall that your committee passed a 1-year extension of the Rygate purchase obligation.
Right.
So just extending it 1 additional year until November 1, 2025. And so it was only a 2-page bill. What the House has returned to you is a 10-page bill. They have added a lot more to it. There are 3 reports at the end of this bill, but also you will notice in section 1, they have extended the Rygate purchase obligation until 2032, unless it is terminated sooner, based on the terms of subsection K. And so you may remember that when you were working on this bill, the advocates did present various sort of check-in points during the next 10 years, at which point there would be benchmarks that Rygate would need to meet in order to keep getting the purchase obligation. And so that is what the House adopted.
Okay.
Did you want me to put it on the screen, or do
That
you?
might be helpful, yeah.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Faith, would you mind making me able to share screen?
Trying to get, yep, nope, you got it.
Okay. Okay. Let me make this bigger. So section 1 now is a lot longer. So as I just mentioned, they have extended the obligation until November 1, 2032, unless terminated earlier pursuant to subsection K.
Okay, since this is B and the next one is D, can I assume these are amendments and not a strike all?
No, it's a strike all.
It's a strike all.
Yeah.
I've got B and then D.
Oh, and it's just because this is the proposal from the House, so it's not it doesn't have line numbers like
Okay,
yeah. And it's a full strike all because it's very different than what you sent them.
okay.
Yeah.
Run 161.
Right, and so this first section 1 is amending the statute 30 VSA 8009, which establishes this purchase requirement for Rygate.
Okay,
Yep. So then at the bottom of page 1 in subsection D, on or before November 1, 2026, the PUC shall determine for the period beginning November 1, 2026 and ending November 1, 2032, the price to be paid to the plant. And so this is the sort of the next round of rate making for Rygate. What the House is proposing here is that the levelized rate that currently exists that the PUC established be extended until November 1, 2026, at which point the PUC should have set a new rate that will go from 2026 to 2032.
okay, and we extended the present rate until 2025?
Yes.
Okay, and they are saying that there is, I think this was in one of the original proposals, that they can stay open until 2032, but in 2026, the PUC will determine, we have to buy it, but the PUC will determine at what price.
Yes.
And that was in there, may not have been the same date, but I think it was in one of the original proposals. Okay.
Yes. Yep, that is correct.
So I would add that what we had said in our legislation was that there had to be some approval that there were more efficiencies. I think Ellen's going to talk about the House requirements for more efficient.
Yeah. Well, that's been the issue. We want them to be more efficient, meaning generally that they're going to use the heat. But if they've only got guaranteed that the heat's going to be there for 4 years, nobody's willing to make the investment. Thus, they were asking for the 10 years so that they could get someone to talk seriously to them. Okay.
So we'll move it for.
All right, so let's keep going, Ellen.
Yes, so in section 2, or on, I'm sorry, in page 2, I'm still in subsection D. This is the definition of avoided cost. And avoided cost is what the PUC uses to determine the price to be paid to the plant, or the rate to be paid to the plant. So the House made a couple of amendments to this list of factors that's part of that calculation. And so I do think you might have seen this language before, but so subsection 4, it shall include the relationship of availability of energy, capacity, renewable energy credits and attributes, and other ISO New England revenue streams from the proposed plant to the ability of the Vermont composite electric utility system or a portion thereof to avoid costs. Vermont retail electricity providers shall receive all output of the baseload renewable plant unless the contract price is reduced to reflect the value of all products, attributes, and services that are retained by the seller. So this is having the PUC take into account RECs and other revenue streams as part of the rate setting case.
Okay, I think that gets us to 7.
Yes, so they added 2 other factors to add as well. So the PUC shall also consider mechanisms for encouraging dispatch of the plant relative to the ISO New England wholesale energy price and value of regional renewable energy credits, while also respecting the physical operating parameters, the fixed costs of the proposed plant, and the impact on the forest economy, and the appropriate assignment of risks associated with the ISO New England forward capacity pay for performance program. So these will be additional factors that will go into the price to be set in that next rate making case.
Okay, and then we get to what's not considered.
Yes, so then the House added language of things the PUC shall not consider. So at the bottom, page 2 into page 3 into page 4. So they shall not consider the following in the determination of avoided cost: capital investments made to meet the efficiency goal established in subsection K, revenue generated by the capital investment made to meet the efficiency goal, and operational costs and operational impacts associated with the project or projects implemented to meet the efficiency goal established in subsection K. So the PUC should not look at these investments and revenue generated by the co-location project. But in subsection 3, so notwithstanding that, though, the PUC shall consider sharing with the Vermont retail electricity providers the benefits associated with waste heat that may be used to benefit a facility that does not provide baseload renewable energy. So this is to allow the PUC to consider cost sharing potentially related to some of the revenues generated by the waste heat.
Okay, any questions at this point?
Yes,
Senator Hardy?
the list, I think on top of page, bottom of 4 page and top of 5, that the list of revenue streams that you just went over, is the assumption that this would reduce the price for the consumers? If we take into consideration, or the PUC takes into consideration all of these things. I know that we had been talking about taking into consideration the renewable energy credits, but the list is similar to that, right? There are a list of things that might reduce the cost for consumers.
Yes, if the plant opens a co-location project that makes a product that can be sold, that is potentially something that could, increase revenues for the plant overall, would lower potentially their generation costs for the electricity. So that was something that, yeah, that's what this is.
Okay.
Okay, Senator McDonald?
So, when it was presented this morning, we asked if the plant can sell heat or do something else to earn more money from the plant, that the measure should perhaps be that now they can meet market prices and they don't need a subsidy. And Ellen said that's not the case, and there is no firm measure of what is acceptable and what isn't. There are no standards.
Yeah, because I get two. Yeah, okay.
Sorry,
No, it's just,
I get it.
So if the plant were to find a way or plan,
wait, you're going to S11, they're going to S11.
It's the healthcare section they were asked,
Okay,
Ginny and me to look at that. Sure, yeah.
Jenny can't.
I'll check in. I'll come back as soon as I can. Okay.
I don't know that her afternoon committee is.
It just broke.
It just broke.
Okay, I'll be back as soon as I can.
Okay.
so we asked the question we asked this morning.
Yeah.
Is there does the law call for any specific measurement, or exactly how does one meet the threshold to be acceptable under this proposal?
Yes, I didn't
The
get
criteria
there. I didn't get
have to
there
be
yet.
met. Excuse me?
Yes, I didn't get there yet. I mean, I know that you're trying to ask if it's specific enough, but I haven't shown you that language yet.
Okay. Okay, so this basically says, I'm looking at 2 on page 4, bottom of the page.
All right, so yeah, so moving on. So then again, in subsection F, it's adding that the recs are all transferred to the utilities, but this is adding new language that reads, unless the PUC approves the plant owner retaining the recs. If the commission approves retaining the recs, the price to be paid by the utilities shall be reduced to reflect the value of the recs or other services.
So they might be able to keep the recs if the PUC says they can, for whatever reason, but then the price of the electricity they're paid would be reduced.
Yes.
Okay.
On page 5, subsection J adds a bill back
On the recs, Madam Chair,
Yes,
there are rules for recs. Does the bill allow the PUC to come up with separate rules that are specific to this plant on whether or not to award account recs?
So the PUC and the utilities did testify about this. And I don't believe the utilities were supportive of this, and I think the PUC might have been supportive of this. This is allowing the PUC to look into whether or not the plant should be allowed to retain the recs. It doesn't specifically require them to do that. So I think the PUC is going to look into that issue further.
just as they'll look into it.
So with other, when you're dealing with renewable energy, my understanding is there's a rule on how recs are awarded, and plants that sell base power compete to be the lowest bidders in base power production. What is the work? Will the plant continue to operate with a subsidy?
Yes?
Until your last sentence ended.
Where this would allow the plant to continue operating with a subsidy, is that correct?
Yes.
Certain amount of time.
Until a certain amount of time, until 2032?
Yes.
Or 2026, right? That there would be a new rate set, which would depend on if they are earning income, on things that they have done, but 2026 could be a decrease or an elimination of the subsidy, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So, which would be terrific. What is the criteria for getting to the point where a subsidy is not needed? Where in the bill is that
Okay, well, I
criteria?
think you asked that before, let's let her get through the bill.
Sure.
Well, I mean, the short answer is that is not in the bill. That is not in the bill, except that when the PUC does a new rate making, they will evaluate the factors that are under subsection D, and they will set a new price based on that. So I don't know to the extent what the price, how much it will change at that point, but I don't know.
We don't know.
You don't know, so if they increase their efficiency, which means co-locating, by October 1st, 2024, they get another shot. If they don't, they're done.
That's
What is the
our bill.
measure?
That's what this is saying.
What is the measure of efficiency that needs to be achieved?
Okay,
It says a doubling or at least 50% relative to the 12-month period preceding July 1, 2022.
where are you, Senator?
Efficiency of
Page 5.
So I'm almost there, I promise.
Yeah.
Let's let Ellen, because this extends to 2032, unless we terminate it sooner. Their subsidy. It then says that the commission will reevaluate their payment rate in 2026, which is a year longer than we gave them. And then, okay. So let's,
On page 5, subsection J gives bill back authority to the agencies providing that participate in proceedings related to this. And then, so subsection K is where all of this exciting things are. So this is a co-location and efficiency requirement. So the owner of the plant shall cause the plant's overall efficiency to be increased by at least 50% relative to the 12-month period preceding July 1, 2022. In achieving this efficiency, the owner shall comply with the requirements of this subsection. So it's the overall efficiency of the plant. There is not a definition specific to efficiency, so you would use the common understanding of efficiency, which would be ratio of output of the facility to the inputs of the facility.
Ratio of output of what?
The facility.
They're outputting energy.
In kilowatt hours that's sold to the plant?
The plant is doing the
Sure.
same.
Well, it's relative to the baseline, so
Yeah, the
gonna
baseline
be
is
electricity.
July.
And what's the baseline now?
it just says, we just read it.
July
In the 12-month
1st.
period preceding
No,
2022.
but so the
What
baseline,
do they measure on July 1 of this
Okay,
summer?
let's let Ellen answer the question. Ellen,
Um,
what are they measuring?
so I do think you received testimony on this early in the session, and I
Assume you remember none of it.
know, I'm trying to remember the exact number. I suspect it's somewhere around 35% efficiency currently. I could be wrong. It might be high. I'm not entirely, I can't remember exactly.
That rings a bell with me. All right, so we're measuring the efficiency. So the efficiency, so it's 12-month period preceding this July. So it's this year, from this July to last July. They're going to measure the efficiency of the plant
Right.
by whatever means they,
And then, so if it's, let's just say 35%, I don't know if that's correct, then it would need to increase by at least 50%. So that would be approximately what, 17.5%. So that would need to bring it up to, 52% efficient-ish.
okay,
And so this, further down in this section, it does require that DPS do this work
okay,
to verify this for efficiency.
okay.
And so the first benchmark should sound familiar to you because I do think you reviewed it. So it requires that by next July 1, 2023, the owner shall submit to DPS and the PUC a signed contract for construction of a facility to utilize the excess thermal heat generated at the plant for a beneficial purpose. Here, beneficial purpose may include the displacement of fossil fuel use for the sustainable production of a product or service, or more efficient or less costly generation of electricity. So the plant has to have a signed contract for construction of a project utilizing thermal excess heat. They also have to have a certification by a qualified professional engineer that the facility will meet the efficiency requirement.
Okay. So they've got a contract.
Yep. Then by October 1, 2024, the plant shall submit to the PUC and DPS certification that the main components of the facility have been completed. So giving them until October 1, 2024 to have the main components of this new facility completed. And then under subsection 4, if the contractor certification are not submitted by July 1, 2023, or if the certification is not submitted by October 1, 2024, then the obligation for the utilities to purchase the pro rata share of the baseload renewable power portfolio shall cease on November 1, 2024, and the PUC is not required to conduct the rate determination.
Okay.
Then a further year out, so on or before September 1, 2025, DPS shall investigate and submit a recommendation to the PUC on whether the plant has achieved the efficiency requirement, so the 50% above current efficiency. if the department recommends that the plant has not achieved the requirement, the obligation under this section shall cease on November 1, 2025, and the commission is not required to conduct the rate determination. So approximately 1 year or slightly less than 1 year after they've supposed to have finished construction of the plant, DPS shall investigate and determine whether or not the plant is as if the overall facility is as efficient as required.
All right. And that's approximately 1 year out. We gave them a 1 year extension, right, to 24. This is an additional year here.
But if they meet the criteria in 24.
Then they get a new rate setting.
Right, this is a,
Yep. We have a question.
Ellen, can you just remind us, Senator McDonald, I think this is part of your question.
Yeah,
Are
Mark,
you
it might
hearing?
help if you listen to the.
There's nothing that prevents this plant from just selling power on the market, right?
were this statute to expire, no, there would be nothing preventing it. Currently, the prevention is that they are required to sell all of their electricity to the utilities.
Right, and the utilities are required to buy it, actually.
Yes, yep.
But they're like, at the crux of this is whether or not we're setting up conditions that they have to meet in order for us to set up, as Senator McDonald sometimes says, a subsidy. And if they fail to meet that, they could close, or as we're seeing, the cost of natural gas is gonna explode. Maybe they'll be competitive on their own and they won't need all of this jujitsu, right? I wanna kind of ground truth the universe we're talking about.
Yes, were the obligation to expire under the current statute, they would be free to sell on the wholesale market or to a specific entity that wanted to purchase from them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes,
it would seem to me that we would be eager to say to the plant, you've got a period of time to be able to sell your electricity at market rates. And we hope you'll do so. But if they can't figure out a way to do that, if they can't sell enough heat, if they can't sell enough t-shirts, I visited the plant, if they can't sell it at market rates, then why would we keep it open and keep employing people working at jobs that require a subsidy when the state is screaming for workers to do a variety of tasks that are going unfilled, so that we operate a plant that sells electricity for more than it costs? I just don't know why that would be a goal for us why would we want to do that? New Hampshire has figured out that that's a losing proposition for their economy, and it doesn't. There's no reason to do it in this job. We've got jobs going unfilled, and we shouldn't be hiring people to do stuff that is subsidized when there are a lot of empty jobs that you could fill.
I'm sure those lobbyists would like to go be a clerk in McDonald's.
Oh, I think.
I mean, there are jobs, if these are the people, that's part of what we asked for. What is the state's plan for retraining and getting these folks into jobs?
Well, the senator from Chittenden, who's on that, just spent millions of dollars to retrain people for a variety of jobs. We've got CUDs that can't get people to string wire. We've got construction jobs. There are jobs going unfilled.
How many jobs in Reigate? Or within a half-hour commute?
It's also about wood
It's not
products, right?
our job
It is
it's not our task to say how many jobs are in Reigate. Our job is to keep electric rates as low and not subsidize them for some reason other than
We subsidized them because we wanted a renewable energy source that was available year-round. And we started this prior to the advent of solar. We subsidized solar, and we have. All right, so we are subsidizing it for a community good as we
You can
determined.
purchase renewable
Okay.
energy year around
Right.
at market rates and without using this plan.
Okay,
So
Senator, I'm gonna ask Ellen to finish this. We are falling behind. We will bring it to a vote and you can vote no if that's what you would like to do. We have been trying to find a way that will keep people employed, help the wood products industry, and not overly penalize ratepayers. If you want to say this is the time to cut them loose, that's your choice. But I want to know what the House has brought back to us before I'd say no to it.
I agree, Madam Chair,
Thank
and
you.
I'm looking for the criteria of when you have succeeded in
All right, it
providing
is
electricity at market rates.
the most, we are talking about the efficiency of the plant.
Yep.
Okay, and if they can sell their heat at a rate that will allow the PUC to reduce the rates they get paid, or if they are equal to market rates. And again, we've got other fuels going up. Those fuels have been going down. So that can change the market. Let's let Ellen finish. Okay, Ellen.
Okay, so the PUC is going to, if Reigate follows all of the previous steps after November 1, 2026, when the new rate is set, the owner of the plant shall report annually to the department, and the department shall verify that the overall efficiency of the plant is still at the required amount. If the plant falls below the requirement, the report shall include a plan to return to the required efficiency within 1 year. If they do not return the required efficiency, the department shall request that the PUC commence proceeding to terminate the obligation under this section. So there will be a yearly check-in even after the price has been set on whether or not they've kept the efficiency. Then subsection 8 is another bill back section. It allows the department to bill back if they need additional assistance when doing the efficiency verification. Section L is a different topic, and it relates to a section at the end of the bill. Section L asks the owner of Reigate to report annually to House Energy, this committee, and the Commissioner of Forest, Parks and Rec and ACCD on the fuel wood purchases for the plant. The report shall include average monthly price paid for the wood fuel, the source of the wood fuel, location, numbers, types, and any sources of non-forest derived wood. And so this is related to a section at the end. The House is very interested in the price that Reigate currently pays for its wood fuel and whether or not there should be a required minimum price for the chips they purchase. They did not set a minimum price, but there's another report at the end looking at whether or not there should be a minimum price for wood chips. So quickly, section 2, extend the levelized price of the power until October 1, 2026. And then there are these 3 reports. So first, there's a report on the decommissioning fund. By next January, DPS shall assess the current value of the Reigate decommissioning fund and determine if it's sufficient to cover the costs necessary to decommission the plant. The department shall report back to the General Assembly and include any recommendations. Section 4 is that report on fuel prices I just mentioned. So the Commissioner of Forest, Parks and Rec, in consultation with
I think we're over time.
Okay.
We're not voting on this today, so if you just tell us what the studies are, then we'll get the last questions.
Okay, so the section 4 report asks the commissioner to hire a forest economist to look at fuel wood chip prices and recommend if there needs to be a minimum fair market price for wood fuel used by Reigate. And that's a report back to the legislature. And then section 5 directs ANR to look at the existing MOU that Reigate has on its harvesting practices and review if any changes should be made to the existing harvest practices that are required.
Okay. Senator Pearson, you have a question?
Yeah, in section 2 that extends the order, that's also effectively extending the price that they get, right?
Yes, the current price.
That,
Yep.
is this still subject to K, to the trigger? Or is this automatic now, even if they fail there, they've gained a few years here?
No, it should be required. K controls, and so the levelized price that's established in the order carries through. But if the Reigate fails to meet any of the benchmarks, the obligation terminates under the statute.
Thank you.
Okay, so this basically says they get 1 more year at the present rate. They have to demonstrate that they are increasing the efficiency by 50% by November 2026. 26. We gave the 25. Or they have a signed contract with all right. Then the PUC looks at what's happening and sets a new rate, which could be the market rate. Natural gas could be through the ceiling at that point, or there could be an oil embargo, or maybe the sun hasn't shone, like this month. Actually didn't sign much in November, December, January either. So PUC will set a rate then. If they have achieved that efficiency goal, once they've done that, they will get to continue until 2032, which gives whoever they sign the contract with the 10 years they need to make it worth their while to make the capital investment. And if we don't do this, as I remember the testimony, they aren't going to get anybody to commit to build anything that's likely to get shut down in 2 years. And so we might as well shoot them now.
And it's kind of what we said a year ago.
Yeah, but they didn't like that either.
No, but this is further,
Okay, but
detailing that.
yes, the other body has looked at it. I'm gonna move us on now, because obviously we need to get somebody from the PUC. Senator, I would like you to write your questions down as specifically as possible
For this,
and we will get them to the PUC beforehand so they can be prepared to answer them. And if anybody else has questions, get them to Faith and we will get them to the PUC. And we could be here very late getting that done. Okay.
so what are the questions that we would? Thank you.
What
Thank
are
you.
your questions? Not what we would ask, what you want the answer to. In
We're glad
English.
to do that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going on to 709. This is miscellaneous.
Senator
Yeah.
Cummings, Joan Goldstein is here to speak about Veggie.
Okay. If Michael, have you got a few minutes? to
Yeah.
Take us a
Sure.
minute. Okay, June, on S269, we have an addition that, let's see if I can find 269.
It extends the sunset and also
Yeah,
validates.
Tell us what's going on. I think I know, but we really should have it on the record.
Sure. Joan Goldstein, Commissioner of Economic Development. The situation was that just very recently we discovered in the Green Books, not on the Vermont Statutes Online, but in the Green Books, there was a sunset to veggie beginning January of 2021. And in the interim between 21 and everyone missed, 21 and present day, there are a number that have been approved. So this was meant to extend the sunset to 24. I believe it's 24 in this proposal, and to validate the approvals that happened between January 1st, 21 and current date.
Okay, I think that's what we figured went on. Somehow, people weren't referring to the Green Books, January 2021. I think
Yeah.
we're fighting a pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, the time for us to talk about an extension would have been in 2020 session. And as you know,
And other things to talk about.
Yeah.
And I think we were limited to only COVID-related legislation, so, okay. Any questions for Ms. Goldstein?
So just so I have this right, if one were not a fan of veggie, this would be a quiet way of having it end. That's not a serious question.
Yes.
All right, I understand. Thank you.
Okay,
Why is there a sunset at all?
because it is always highly controversial. That was part of the way that's happened several times.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Sunsets and then sunsets have been put back on. It's one of those perpetual.
I'd like to split the question here.
Yeah, it's one of those perpetual cans that we keep kicking down the road. Okay, thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
All right. So we're going on. Michael is here.
When did they learn this literature?
They said they just realized it. Joe, when did you figure this out?
Yeah, it was like, I think it was about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. It was just in notes, you know, since the, I guess, where did it originate? I think it was in the 2016 Economic Development Bill. So there were notes that Abby found that had to do with the sunset. We looked on Statutes Online, we didn't see it. Then we looked in the Green Book and we found it. So then we were like, all right, we've got to remedy this now so that it's validated. So we fully expect we would go in next session to talk about an extension. I think, you know, the sunset is there. There's always a reevaluation. I think in 2016, there was a reevaluation of the program. But then in 2020, we never put forward to extend it, so.
Okay. Probably 4 or 5 year extension. All right.
All right, I can go.
You,
Thanks.
we will have the full committee
That
here.
will be, this will be a floor. This is just a floor for their proposal, right? That the House has done.
Yes, there, this is, we sent them, which 269.
Yeah, that's the efficiency, whatever.
Yeah, that's the energy partnership, which they didn't touch, but they put this extension of veggie and, the home weatherization assistance, the change it from the CPI to the cost of labor and material, because they're having trouble buying things because the CPI is less than building material. Okay, Michael, you're here, but this is, we have a draft. Okay, so Michael.
So this is the amendment you requested yesterday to remove the language added by Senate Agriculture waiving primary ag mitigation at the Franklin County State Airport. So there would still be mitigation that's required at the airport. As you heard from others, there is an effort in the appropriations bill to appropriate monies to AOT for that mitigation. So the mitigation ongoing, doesn't set a precedent of waiving mitigation at airports. And it's built into the budget of the airport, which you heard Trini say yesterday that partly it's already done, but this was a larger project.
Never hurts to ask.
What's that?
I said it never hurts to ask.
Right, right. And so, yeah, that's what the amendment does. It strikes that section that added the waiver, and it strikes the effective dates and puts in a new effective date that removes reference to the airport.
And in the budget language, do we give them some window of time? I mean, remember I was asking about that, because they probably won't happen in FY23.
So any appropriation from the general fund, which this would be, has an automatic carry forward in it in statute. So it carries forward for the purpose into the next fiscal year.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, any motions?
Do we have a proposal on?
Yes.
Yes.
To strike that language.
You should-
Stop the mitigation language and just change the effective dates.
Yeah, here it is.
It should be on your website.
Yes, it's on the website.
Which means it will be money set aside or it will not be.
The amendment just takes out the language that has the airport not have to put money into the mitigation, whatever it's called, conservation.
So they,
The solution,
they would have to put money in.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
And
Thank you.
appropriations
Somewhere.
is aware of this and it will be covered, or most of it will, in the budget for
Thank you.
transportation. All right. Can we get a motion?
Sure, I'll move draft 1.1 of H709. That we approve draft 1.1
Well, that's,
709,
all
right?
right, that's the amendment. You move to
No.
amend.
I move that we amend H709 with draft 1.1 dated 5/2.
Okay, further discussion. Senator Bray, this is the amendment we asked for yesterday, which takes out the language which says that the Franklin County Airport doesn't have to do the prime ag mitigation. The understanding is that that will get covered in the budget for transportation.
mentioned that yesterday.
Okay, so that, well, I got the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. I've got that as 601. Now I need a motion to approve as amended. Senator Pearson has moved that we amend that we pass H709 as amended with draft 1.1.
That's really approved.
Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Thank you very much. You passed 601.
Would you like me to report that?
That would be great.
Unless you want to do it.
You want, yeah, that's right. You're Franklin County.
I'm happy to.
I think that would be
That
good.
lets you talk about the solution with perhaps more credibility.
More enthusiasm.
Certainly more enthusiasm.
So here's a paper copy to deliver to the Senate.
Is that the draft?
Yes,
That's
It's
it.
1.1.
here's another, you can give them that.
Thank you.
We've got 5 minutes.
601.
Yes, they just voted 201 out. We're going back up there.
Okay, and we are on to technical. Oh, yes, all right.
Becky present, I get much better results when I just stay in the chair.
3:30, what are we doing? Proposal of amendment to S 261. Abby.
Senator Cummings?
Yes.
I was in touch with the PUC. They will take the bill under consideration and would like to come back next week. I said Monday at 1.
Monday at 1 is about as good as they're gonna get.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, 261, this is the bill that didn't need to happen. But they apparently have added some things to it, so as soon as is Abby double booked, Faith?
I'm notifying her now.
I don't wanna give everybody a 5-minute break, cause then they'll be gone for 15.
Yeah.
Never, I know.
That's not, it was a 1-minute break. That was-
You back in 5. I'm not kidding. I am on a committee that if you get a break, it has been known 3 minutes.
Abby's here.
Abby is here. Okay. This is a new bill to us, and apparently it has been well amended. So Abby, whenever you're ready. Oh, she's here today.
Probably come down. Looks like they tried to deal with timeshares.
I know that I've been told they put timeshare stuff on this.
Report. Are we losing conferees, S11 conferees in a minute?
Yeah, and we're not.
I moved it back to 3:45.
Oh, thank you.
Senator Cummings, we have 2 bills to vote at 4 o'clock and I can't get the lawyer till 4 o'clock.
And one of them is your alcoholic beverage bill, Michael.
Is that either playing up for 4?
Mm-hmm. And we can't get the lawyers before that.
Okay.
I don't know if you care if you're here for the approval of the adoption of the charter of the town of Montgomery. Is that your town?
No, that is not, that's in Franklin County, but it's not my town.
It's not your town? All right, if we get Senator
Gonna be, did we move back?
Hardy.
No, we didn't.
I have never gotten a charter change in this bill before. But we did get sent, oh, Senator, it's over there, workers' comp. You guys released it to the wrong committee?
And you know, when I saw it, I wasn't in the thing, and I saw someone got up and said it, and I was surprised the way it approached.
No, the secretary caught us.
Are we on hold?
We are still on Zoom. Abby's name is up, but her face has not appeared. What are you looking for, Senator?
That's why I was asking which bill.
Senator Soraka has 2:30 coming out,
For the next one.
7:30. That are,
This one may,
Yes.
the next bill
Came
we're
out of
taking up.
did we end up
Yes.
sort of levelizing the playing field?
Yes.
Alcohol by
Yes,
volume is
61.
metric.
And it's
That's the,
probably
that
over
was my
there.
driving.
This is the House proposal of amendment.
I mean, it's like, who
So
knows
it's
where the
the
alcohol
things that
came
came
from?
down shortly.
To me,
Whether it's brewed or whether it's
It's
distilled or,
yeah,
that's my.
Okay.
right.
It's a content.
And, you know,
All right, we're here.
like, let the products compete on an even playing field.
It's the American way.
Consumers will choose.
There you go.
Okay, are we in the alcohol bill here?
Well, we're-
Well, there's some deal with loss of revenue for cider. I
Right.
think I have an amendment or an idea that we fix that from the source of that proposal, but right now, we are on 261, which has come back heavily amended.
Boomerang.
So Abby, I don't even know why we sent this over. I thought we killed it because the towns can already, I guess we made it clearer in capital letters that they could retain, or that all towns,
That's
that's what we did. The practice has been, they've just let all towns retain it, but the law said only those that were hurt under Act 60. This all went back to that. These were the traditional gold towns and they could retain it. But the Department of Ed, so we made it clear that everybody retained it. Even though
That's
they
correct.
have been, they may not have realized it. Okay. Okay, so what did they do to our nice clean little bill?
So for the record, Abby Shepherd, Office of Legislative Counsel, that is an accurate summary of S-261 that you passed out, really making a clarifying change to statute, that towns that both pay, or all towns, both those that pay directly to school districts and those that pay education taxes that are collected to the ed fund, they all receive a retention off of the amount of taxes collected. So that was S-261. It was very short and fairly technical. The House concurred with that change and then added back most of what the Senate sent over in S-214, which initially was the timeshare valuation bill. Instead, you changed that to a study of timeshare valuations, and you made other further changes to the valuation, the way that properties are valued. All of those sections were retained except for the two sections relating to fees. So essentially the House has sent you back S-214 untouched, except the two fee sections were removed. And to refresh your memory of what those two fee sections did, there under current statute, there are two separate fees for reappraisal and equalization that towns are allowed to charge, or towns receive, I'm sorry, from the state. Those are per parcel. Each parcel on the grand list gets these two separate fees, and they're for slightly different purposes. What S-214 did was combine them into one fee and allow the total fee revenue received by the towns to be used for reappraisal, maintaining and setting up the grand list, and the equalization study as well. That's what one of the purposes is for those fees. So in other words, that would have required an appropriation. So the House did remove those two fee sections. And then I can go through all of those sections that were in 214 if you'd like, or just leave it open for discussion.
Well, that was what was in 214, right? Oh, no. Yes, no, there was a lot more in 214. I know.
There was much more. I'd be happy to walk you through that if you'd like a refresher.
But what is all that they added from 214? What's section 1, 1, and 2 that we have? So they added two sections from 114, put timeshares into a study, which we hadn't done.
Yes, we did.
No, that was your version.
It was a study?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so walk us through what's left of 214.
Great. So the amendment that you see, that's the House proposal of amendment to 261. It retains section 1. That was just clarifying that all municipalities can retain a certain portion of their property tax collections. So they did not change that section. And then they added on the majority of S-214. So that would be a new section 2. And that changes the statewide cap, which is currently set at $100,000. And that's increased to $1 million. That's the same as what was done in the Senate. And that cap applies to refunds to municipalities who lose an appeal or a settlement that reduces the value of their grand list. And the subsequent fiscal year, they can request a credit against the property tax that they pay to the state. So this would increase that cap to 1 million. And that is the same as in
Abby, I'm trying to figure out where I've got the House proposal of amendment.
Yes.
But that's just two sections, but you're saying they left? Where do I find out what's?
All that it only strikes the effective date from 261 because 261 was only two sections. It was saying all municipalities get to retain a collection of percentage of their property tax collections and then the effective date. So this strikes the effective date and then adds on most of what was in S-214.
So it is House proposal. All right.
Yes. Sorry, there are 3 documents under my name. I did include S-214 just for comparison, but if you look at the House proposal of amendment for S-261, that's the language I'm looking at.
The right document. Okay.
And this is in the same order, more or less, as what was in S214 minus those two fee sections. So the new section 3 of S261 creates a state appraisal and litigation assistance program. This is not exactly the same as what passed out of the Senate. The Senate did intend for this program to be for assistance to municipalities with valuing complex commercial, utility, or other unique properties within a municipality. The House struck utility at the request of the Department of Taxes. They had testified that they had a different sort of track currently underway with utilities for valuing utilities separately and in a different fashion from complex commercial or other unique properties. Otherwise, the language is the same as what passed out of the Senate. And if you remember, this new program is being set up in 1 year's time, and you had created a contingent effective date. So it will only be created if the General Assembly appropriates enough funds, enough monies to fund the new program. And that's why there is in section 4 a cost estimate that's required from the Commissioner of Taxes of how much it would cost to set up this new litigation and appraisal assistance program.
Okay.
Section, oh, I'm sorry. Are there any questions?
I'm not seeing any.
Well,
Senator Hart.
I just wanted to, we had a long conversation about utility and we ended up leaving it in because while the department says they're creating this other program that is supposed to help complex utility valuations, it still hasn't been created. And some of the properties that members of this committee were most concerned about actually are utilities. I know that Senator Brock and Senator Bray and I have properties that could be considered utility properties. So we intentionally left the word utility in. So just want to note that that is potentially a significant change. I know it's one word.
But I mean, this one is also not going to start right away. There's cost estimates, and unless we come up with the money, the tax commissioner has said he has a program underway to figure out the cost, how you evaluate
For utilities,
the
yeah,
utility.
and the argument that I think I made about keeping utilities in is if they do have this utility program that starts and is actually functioning, then we can,
Right.
amend this later and say, okay, we have a utility program, we don't need a
But
utility.
that was then, this is now, this is a committee of conference report. This is their proposal.
This is not a committee.
No, this is their proposal, but if we don't agree, it is likely to go to committee of conference, which means it may die and we get nothing.
Right, I just wanted to note that that wasn't a minor change and that we had a long discussion
Yeah.
about that word utility.
Okay. So utility is a word we may want to note on this. Okay, why don't you keep going, Abby?
In sections 5 and 6, there was a request from the Department of Taxes, PV&R, to allow the director of PV&R, when there's an appeal from the Board of Civil Authority, to have the director be able to have the discretion to defer so that the appeal doesn't go to a hearing officer within PV&R, that it would instead go directly to the Superior Court. Because under current statute, an appeal, the taxpayer or the select board members have a choice whether an appeal goes to the director or to Superior Court. So this language would allow the director to say, this is a complicated appeal involving a complex or unique property or valuation. It would be more appropriately handled by the Superior Court. So that is in sections 5 and 6. They work together to allow the director to forward an appeal. I don't know if there are any questions on that section. Again, that is the same as what was passed out of the Senate.
That's what I thought, that we had done that. Okay.
Section 7 is what remains of the timeshare project valuation discussion. That is unchanged from what passed out of the Senate, and that requires the Commissioner of Taxes to submit a report to the Ways and Means Committee and to your committee, proposing options for addressing the complexities of timeshare valuation. And that also requires recommendations for legislative changes. The effective dates are also the same as what passed out of the House. So those primarily relate to the increase in the cap on refunds for municipalities when they have a reduction in their grand list due to an appeal or a settlement. So that would allow that new cap to apply starting next January. So that would help any municipality that has a final decision reducing their grand list this calendar year, 22. And then the State Appraisal and Litigation Assistance Program has that contingent effective date. It takes effect July 1st, 23, but that is contingent on the General Assembly appropriating funds to cover the operating costs for the department to stand up the new program. And then the final change is that because S261 and S214 are combined in this proposal of amendment, the title is changed and has both bill titles in it. So it will be an act relating to municipal retention of property tax collections and valuation for purposes of the education property tax.
So we lost the fees is the big part.
That's correct. And the word utility.
Thank you, Abby.
Committee questions.
I guess the one question I have is process, because those fees were in our budget. Do we assume that they are taking care of this if we accept this proposal of amendment?
I'm not sure the fees were in the budget. The feedback I got at Money Chairs was nobody had asked for these fees. We just increased them, so I have a feeling they are not in the budget.
Okay, well the bill as it came out of the Senate was approved by finance.
Right.
So by approves. It went.
I don't know if they left the fees in or not. They did.
Yes. The Appropriations Committee did consider S214.
Yes, and they left the fees in.
Okay. Committee. Questions. We either have questions or we need a motion or we need more time. We've got Abby. So if we move on, if we can do this, then we can move on to miscellaneous tax. Maybe get it out of here and then we could take a little break.
Senator Cummings,
Yes,
I've been notified that our lawyer for the last two bills is free earlier, so we can get it all done.
I get it all done. All right.
Well, you
Senator
can-
Gray.
I'm sure, are you looking for a motion on 214?
Is this 204?
261.
That's right,
Yeah.
261.
214 is the other bill that this has got combined with these. Yeah.
261.
This is 261, and they basically have taken out the word utility because the tax commissioner says he's already doing that. And taken out the fees.
Just gonna note for the record, Mr. Tax Commissioner, if you're listening, you better be doing that utility thing.
If he does it, we can hold his feet to the fire.
At this point, I don't have the bill in front of me, so are we looking for a motion to concur with you?
Concur.
So I move that we concur with the
Okay,
most recent version of the House proposal amendment.
we have a motion to concur with the House's proposal of amendment on S261. Further discussion.
Get funny, we're voting on here.
This is the property tax valuation formerly
It's
known
been
as.
added on to
timeshare.
the bill that was the you get to send your parents' bill that you got to retain a portion of the property tax.
It doesn't seem to really do much. It's mostly reports, right?
Yeah.
trying to get it in front of me here.
It's
Well,
got that up
create-
to a million. I mean, that's what we did.
Yep, and it creates it asks the commissioner to create a program and come back to us for funding it.
You'd have to do that anyway, and if we don't fund it, we don't fund
And
it.
it changes the valuation hearing officer,
Yeah.
they can appeal directly to Superior Court.
And we did that.
Yeah, we did that, yeah.
And I think we did, I think I find it, I just haven't got it up in front of me, and so you bear with me.
This is a bill you like, Randy.
I know.
People
But it doesn't work, I've tried that a million times.
People do things to bills that you like. when you're
Yeah.
not
They
looking.
took out a word that I did like and you liked. And they took out the increase in
Yes.
the.
Copy of S-261, House Proposal Amendments.
Do we have a hard copy? I don't know, but we can get one.
We're not,
We should
we're
have
talking
it.
about.
261.
Yes, this bill I lost.
Yeah, well, we're talking, oh, wait, I don't. think it did, did I?
Yes.
It was Corey's bill that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Maintaining
think
current law,
it may
like
be
changing
in the bills that came down, like yesterday, the day before,
I don't.
with the House proposal of amendment. Okay, Randy, have you found it?
I have it, yeah, I'm just reading
Okay,
the litigation assistance piece, which is new.
It's not new.
Read here for this.
we did, it basically says it's not gonna go into effect unless we appropriate the money.
Veggies.
Well, there is, I know of a particular situation that I was concerned about, it is in the budget. And I know it's in the budget, so,
Okay.
yeah, spoken to appropriations about it, so I think we're fine with it.
Efficiency,
Want to show up there?
side project for big corporations.
My only interest is keeping records
Yeah.
of votes.
Okay,
Copy of
well,
what it was that we're about to vote on.
well, we could ask Faith to send you a copy of the House proposal of amendment for 261, so you would have, we'll need a clean copy to go on.
Senator, since this is on the floor, do we actually officially vote it out?
I
We
think,
don't vote it
no,
out,
we
but
vote
we
to
vote to
concur.
concur.
So do we need a copy of it? I don't know that we were delivered a
Oh,
copy.
We may
no,
not.
we don't.
Oh, we don't need a
The
copy.
recorder doesn't need one?
Not if we're concurring, okay.
Faith, could you fire up some more copies of voting sheets, please?
I will do that in just a moment, sure.
Okay,
Thank you.
I need a motion to concur.
Just
Senator
did it.
Gray.
Didn't I make that motion?
Yeah, it's on the
Has everybody
table.
moved to concur with House proposal
Okay.
amendment on S-261?
Senator Gray moved?
Yeah.
Okay, you already did. All right,
We're just waiting for Senator
we're
Brock.
waiting for Senator Brock to read it.
I'm looking at section 3, on the
Yeah.
effective dates regarding state appraisal and litigation assistance program. Takes effect in July of 2023, provided the General Assembly has on or before July 1 appropriated funding to cover the Department of Taxes and operating costs required to create, implement, and maintain a new state appraisal and litigation assistance program. I know that the funds that I was seeking to solve a particular problem relating to that dam that we dealt with earlier. I understand that those funds are in the budget, but what I don't know, the funds, in other words, that the town needs, I don't know if this particular piece relating to operating costs required to create, implement, and maintain the state appraisal and litigation assistance program is in the budget.
No, it's not.
It's not, because the
No.
program
That's
doesn't
what this
exist.
says. It says it's gotta come back, the commissioners got to figure out what it's gonna cost to stand up this whole program. Right now, we're left with, you've gotta get your individuals.
So what I'm trying to understand is if the funds to reimburse that town are in the budget, is that exclusive to the requirements of this provision? I'm assuming that it is.
Yeah, I would assume
I would
that.
assume that it is.
Abby, what,
The funds,
I think you're looking at so there are two different effective dates. So for a town that had a settled appeal or a settlement in 2022, the refund cap has been increased to $1 million, and that's
Understand that.
effective January 1st.
Right, I understand that. It's the second piece, it's the reimbursement for litigation and appraisal expenses. And
Right,
we
so
have- yeah.
that is not, there isn't any, there isn't a specific change to, it's the same section that has the cap. There
Right.
is nothing in there about reimbursing litigation costs.
But there is something in the budget that is specific to this particular town and the situation it is in with respect to the dam. My understanding from talking to appropriations, that is in fact in the budget. And I just want to make sure that this language doesn't mess that up in any way.
No, it shouldn't, because this is just about standing up a program. It doesn't, that if there is very specific language just for
There's
a
specific
one-time
language in the budget that
appropriation,
I read, yeah.
it would not, this would in no way impact that appropriation.
All right, fine, then I will.
That doesn't say no money to be appropriated until this gets set up.
Exactly. There's no prohibition against sort of one-off appropriations to help individual towns. That said, it is a good point that what this new program is doing does not necessarily set aside money to pay for litigation costs.
Right, understood.
That's sort of a conversation to come.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to concur. Are we ready? Discussion,
This is 261.
261. I have,
Do we remember, was I the reporter on that? For you? I didn't think it was me, but.
I thought it was you.
Because this was, it said the whole timeshare and everything else.
That was a different bill. I reported
Yeah, right.
214.
I believe it was Senator McDonald for S261.
Okay.
yes, it was.
No, 161.
It was.
Oh, no, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong.
261.
261, they have added another bill, so we may want to have another reporter. The question is I think I may have.
Senator Hardy.
214, I
You did,
reported it. Yes.
Okay,
I think I said it.
so let's see if we're gonna do this one.
Should I make a motion?
Now, I have a motion on the floor to concur with the House proposal of amendment. Further discussion on the proposal to concur. If not, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. That's 7-0-0. And Senator Hardy, you're probably the one most informed to
Okay,
report this.
I will do this one.
Give it to you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I know I went over across the street, approach. Are we ready to vote 269, the energy savings bill?
269.
That's the little veggie number.
Oh. We have not voted 269? Yeah, we should be. We just were waiting for Joe Goldstein to tell us what we were doing to Veggie.
Well, I see that, in effect, termination after a certain date, it's the issue in the effective date is what the intent is.
Veggie has accidentally been sunset. And so this in section 5 brings it back to life until 2024. And in section 6 says all of the Veggie grants that we've given since it was accidentally sunset shall be considered legit.
And
It's
Veggie has
A-game
regularly
material.
done a sunset. We change it, we extend it, we put a sunset on it. I have more than one time tried to get the sunset off, but this is gonna come back to 2024, which means that in the next session, we're going to have to decide, and that will require some testimony. Otherwise, it might.
So essentially, what we're saying here is if we don't pass this, Veggie has already ceased to exist as.
Yes.
Yeah,
Does-
don't pour gasoline on the
No,
fire.
I don't. I just want to understand, make sure that
Yes.
it says what I think it says.
Yes,
It does say that, yes.
you are
It's
correct.
certainly going to influence my vote, but I might have to split the questions.
All right.
Senator Bray,
So, I would, if we're ready, I would move, that we concur with the House proposal amendment on S-269, an act related to extending the energy savings account partnership pilot program.
Yeah. Further discussion on that? Wait. Sorry.
This is the one that reinstates Veggies?
Yeah.
Okay.
What else is in the bill?
It's the,
The energy savings.
Oh, yeah.
Polio added language, the change to inflation adjuster.
yeah, that's,
That's the weatherization that we,
This was your bill, Randy?
No.
no, this was the bill, we did the energy partnership like 4 years ago, where you could keep some of your electric utility, the payment you would have made into the electric efficiency fund. And you could do other things to save efficiency, basically more fossil fuel, but it gave more flexibility. COVID happened and nothing happened.
Extended it.
So we're
Okay, yeah.
extending it, I think it's 18 months.
This one was painful, yeah, let's
Yeah.
get rid of this one.
Yes, this one was very painful, both
Okay.
times we took it out.
So the
And
motion
there's been
was,
enough pain today.
So we're not simply extending the program, we're also allowing for money to be spent.
Okay, Senator, we've had that debate.
Madam Chair, I'm not debating it,
I know,
we're talking about the contents. And the contents do more than what had been said.
yes.
I did not comment on whether or not that was good or a bad idea.
I'm here from the Department of Reiteration. So the motion is to concur with the House proposal amendment on S-269.
On S-269, all right, I have a motion to concur on S-269. Further discussion? Not, all those in favor say aye. Folks say no.
No.
I've got 5-2-0.
Correct.
I agree.
Yeah, 5-2, and that carries. Okay. That. Okay,
That was a two concurrence. That was-
yeah.
Concur with the House
They do
proposal.
element
First to concur. All right, 261. What else have we voted out to concur? Coming here. Did we vote 261? We did, right?
yeah, just a moment ago.
Yeah. So that one we've done. We did 709. That's the airports.
Yeah.
We have not done 512, right? That's the remote.
Notaries. I
No.
thought we did do that.
Did we do
$30.
that?
I thought
Yeah, we gave it to Senator Brock. Are you reporting? Go ahead.
No,
No, we gave it.
no.
We're going to something, but that isn't it.
I think
Mark,
Senator Brock, you're doing the airport.
I'm doing 709.
Yeah, the
Miscellaneous
airport.
agricultural.
We didn't do the notary one? Okay.
I'm doing, I,
Which takes out the airport line.
Yeah, we
You're
did do the
doing the
notary.
notary
Yeah,
one? Okay, that's right, that's the fees.
yeah,
So
30 bucks.
this, how about 261? No, that's Rygate. That one we haven't done. And we are now on to miscellaneous tax. And I think, Abby, you have a version for us. I think our final version, hopefully, so. That is 738.
Yes, that is posted under my name. Thanks to Faith. It is draft 1.3 with today's date.
All right, I am not, I mean, if I got two Abby.
I just sent it to Faith. so
Just sent it, okay,
You might need to refresh.
yeah. Let's see.
Senator Brady,
Yes, sir.
30,
I reported the
yes, it is up. Okay,
Recorded the vote on 261. And does that bill have to be renamed or anything like that? Or I don't know what the title up here.
So 261,
It's
We haven't
it's
done
just a
261.
floor motion.
Just the four motions, so 261, we concur.
no, 261 is Reigate. We haven't done that.
No, that's one.
161.
161.
So 261 is municipal retention of property tax.
That's right, okay. We did do that. All right. It's 161.
Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome.
All right,
One thing I also need to know, if we have it, is that piece that we've just taken out of 709 is someplace else. I don't know whether it went in budget, where it went.
Yes.
it's in the budget.
Budget.
Budget?
It's not language though, it's just in a.
Yeah, just, yeah, that's right. It was just an issue in which the state effectively is going to pay itself.
Right,
My
it's
understanding.
going into the Department of Transportation. budget.
So that's where it was, okay.
Okay, so
I'll mail you out, I guess.
Abby, walk us through. This is, all right, this is our amendment.
Yes, would you like me to share my screen or does everyone have it in front of you?
Number 738, miscellaneous tax. This is our, we can amend and then we can go look at the rest of the bill, just so we're cognizant of the rest of the bill. And for the committee, we did approve S53 concur this morning. The one addition that was new is the link up with the federal tax code. That is a must do. It is here every year. The Chair of Ways and Means is very nervous about that sitting here since we haven't gotten this out yet. So it got stuck on 53 as a belts and suspenders. But that's one that can't be vetoed, and I think this is a nice safe bill, but I'm gonna leave it in here too. Okay, so Abby, walk us through what we've done.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that's correct that this amendment from the committee is not a strike all. So the annual link up language is still in the underlying bill. What your amendment does is it makes several instances of amendment. The first is changing the Abenaki hunting and fishing licenses language. That's the first instance of amendment to make it clear that they are free of charge. And then the second instance of amendment strikes out the effective dates and adds all of the new provisions that you've been discussing. So there are only two instances of amendment, but there are quite a few new sections being added to the bill.
Okay.
So the first is,
Yes, it is. Just refresh.
Yeah, let's
Just
refresh.
refresh, it just came out.
738.
that's correct, and it's draft 1.3. It should be the only H738 under my name for today's date. The first new section that's being added in is section 17, and that's the legislative expense reimbursement, and that is limited to mileage reimbursement. And that would allow for mileage only for actual mileage traveled, both between the member's home in Montpelier and from Montpelier or the member's home to another site on officially sanctioned legislative business. In subdivision 4, the intent language is struck. That's where there was some discussion about what substantiation would require. That was not necessary to align with the IRS requirements for an accountable plan that would allow for these expense reimbursements to be considered non-taxable. So that intent language has simply been struck from the bill, from statute, I'm sorry.
Yeah, from statute, okay.
Yes, so it's different from another version where it said the intent is only to reimburse mileage that is substantiated. You don't need that language to require already for the mileage to be only what is actually traveled to get the reimbursement.
Okay.
The second new section in here is section 18, and that's relating to 529 plans. That changes the types of allowable withdrawals from 529 plans that will not result in recapture of the tax credit. And I did change subdivision 4, which is on page 3, slightly. Tom Little from VSAC did reach out with proposed language. It is not significantly different from what you've seen in another version. He did suggest, because the intent was to make it clear it's only for qualified higher education loans, to add in higher before education. And he did suggest just making it clear that the loan being repaid was used exclusively for costs of attendance at an approved post-secondary education institution. That way it mirrors the subdivision 1 on line 4, which is an existing statute, because costs of attendance are already an allowable use for withdrawing funds from 529 plans.
Is cost of attendance like room and board?
It does include room and board, yes. Tuition, room and board,
I think,
books.
Books.
thank you.
Cost more than tuition.
So now not only will costs of attendance, but loans used to pay for those costs of attendance will be allowable.
Okay. Yes, the CUDs.
Yeah, this is pretty good. I appreciate the work.
It is, and I did see the treasurer as I was literally leaving the parking lot, and she was too, and several of her staff, and they said they were fine with Abby's language. So I'm assuming this is the language.
This is Maria's language. I can't take credit for that.
Oh, it's Maria's Abbott, okay.
Should thank Maria.
They're okay with whatever's going over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it does the job, but it's probably as good as we can do. Get notice, we express intent. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
This is draft 1-3, 5-6, what time?
Noon,
noon.
you're ahead of us though.
You're ahead of us. We're still in crime insurance coverage.
The next several sections, starting with section 21, are requests from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns to require, instead of only requiring a bond for certain town officials, there's also the option, or instead there is now the option to have crime insurance coverage. That's inserted in several instances of Title 24. So that is through section 25 of the bill.
Okay,
And those have not been changed from what was recommended. They've just been put into the standard drafting format. That said, there are some gender neutral language changes that are made where it's possible to not change the meaning of statute. The next new section is the Montpelier TIF district language that you considered yesterday. Becky Wasserman did work on this and also put this into standard drafting format. So that's section 26, starting on line 8 on page 7.
okay. Any questions on that one? Okay, we move on to 27.
27 is, Madam Chair, you had requested including the H437 language for the sales and use tax exemption for manufacturing machinery and equipment. So that is starting on page 8, and that expands slightly the sales tax exemption for manufacturing machinery and equipment.
How much is that cost to do that? Anything?
700 or something. Oh, look at that.
There he is.
Magic round.
Where's how much? And it's like Aladdin's genie, Graham appears.
People call me that. Graham Campbell from the Joint Fiscal Office. The cost of that is $700 or $900,000 in reduced sales tax revenues. I want to flag for the committee that it is a little bit strange that this bill will include that because it is a reduction in sales tax revenues, but you all just passed out the yield bill, which set the yields without this including it. included in that construct. There is room on the bottom line to cover this, but I just wanted to let the committee be aware of that sort of quirk in the order of the bills here. So there is enough room to cover this in your yield bill. There just won't be as much money sitting on the bottom line as you had. I think you had 1.3 sitting on the bottom line. You will now have 0.4 sitting on the bottom line now.
But this is only if there's new purchase of new equipment, right?
Right. So we are estimating that because you are changing the standard for the qualifying for the sales and use tax exemption for machinery and equipment, every year there's purchases of machinery and equipment, and that is the sales tax revenue that you will no longer be collecting as a result of that change. And so you're reducing sales tax revenues as a result.
I'm just wondering about the 900.
Can I ask? Thank you for pointing that out, Graham. That is a really good point, and it makes me annoyed because I'm like, oh, I like it to be neat. Does it make sense to have it as an amendment on the yield bill? Because isn't that in approps? And then
It's out. Folks voted it out.
Oh, they did. Oh,
It's out.
okay, bummer.
I don't think it's a huge deal. It's just, I think if you didn't have the money on the bottom line, then it would become a little bit more of a concern. But you do have, I think it was 1.3 million. I just want to double check, but you do have enough money sitting on the bottom line. It just will not be as much as a result of your decrease in sales tax revenues in this bill.
Okay. Further discussion. This one we've done a couple times. Okay. Abby, is that it?
That's the end of the substantive sections. The final section 28 is the effective dates. So I did just want to point out that the 529 plan change is retroactive to the start of January 2022. So that will be available this year and going forward this taxable year. You do have the annual link language, which has its classic retroactive effective date. And then the way that the effective date section is drafted, it does actually list out the effective dates for every single section. So if you wanted a refresher of what's in the underlying bill as it came over from the House, that does list them all out. So there are changes to the Children's Trust Foundation checkoff. You made some change, or you've incorporated changes to property transfer tax treating enhanced life estates like conventional life estates. There's some technical changes to deadlines for underpayment penalties. There are changes allowing Vermont to require reporting when there's federal audits of partnerships. There's a technical change to the taxation of land underlying solar plants or energy storage facilities and how that underlying land is valued. You have the Abenaki fishing, hunting, and trapping licenses changes. Also, that I did want to point out, in this committee did make a change that I believe was requested by the department. It takes effect January 1st, 2023. That change to make it clear that they're free. And there is a report due the following year from Forest Parks and Rec on how much that costs.
Okay.
The legislative expense reimbursement, so the mileage reimbursement, is made effective prospectively, so it's next January. And then all of the other provisions, the CUDs, the crime insurance coverage, the TIF, and the sales and use tax exemption are all effective starting July 1st.
Okay, committee. What is your pleasure? First, I need a motion to amend.
Move that, Chair.
Okay, Senator Bray has moved that we amend page 738.
1.3, 6, 22.
You got it. No. So I have a motion, further discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. That carries 7-0. Senator Bray.
I move that we, vote out to go favorably.
Senator Bray has moved that we vote out 738 favorably as amended. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. That carries 7-0. I'll report that. And that's all our big bills. Thank you, Abby, and thank Maria and everyone else who has worked on this one. This is usually our heaviest lift. And we don't have anything on little cigars in this one. I think for 20 years, we had a little cigar adjustment in this bill. Senator Bray.
Would this be the right moment to break open and kick it?
No.
Okay, just check.
We're gonna move, if we can get our lawyers,
I've just invited the lawyers and I'm also printing a clean copy of 738.
I want to know if you can meet tonight.
okay, of the amendments. Okay, good, thank you. And I will get that and get it up there. I'll tell the whole committee, all of you weren't here, so I'll tell you what happened to the yield bill. They struck the 29 million. But they struck the 29 million because it got appropriated this morning in the S100. So we don't need to put it in the yield bill. It is automatically deducted from the, it automatically will go in the property tax.
Still in the education fund
It
outlook.
is still, yes, it is all in there, but we didn't need, and I had lawyers and fiscal people tell me, no, this is how you do it. Because I said, what do you mean we appropriated it? We didn't appropriate.
I guess there is an appropriation language in that bill.
Yeah. So it is in there. Yeah, we will know what's going on. That is.
Are we moving on to page 730?
We are moving on to alcohol, which is a little early. Okay, this is our amendment. Senator, at some point, you can find me a bill. I need the original copy of the bill. 738. Okay. That's the original copy?
That's what I was sent to me.
Can I erase the fingerprints? Okay.
No,
That's what's in the file?
that was-
Okay. So Graham and Tucker, I gather, the emails you both sent me yesterday and I shared with the committee, we missed something. Yesterday in this bill, oops, and I have a low power notice, so I have to take a minute to plug in my machine here. Okay. Okay, so this is 730. So
relating to alcohol beverages, Department of Liquor and Water.
yes, and our concern was the moving it out, the potential loss of revenue for moving RTD, ready to drink cocktails, out. Everyone thinks we'll pay more. This allows them to basically second-class licenses, which is grocery stores and gas stations to sell. Anyone with a second-class license. The thought is that that will be made up by filling up our limited shelf space with more expensive hard liquor. And to make sure that we don't use revenue, the House has put a required $20 million plus or minus payment to the state. I think I've gotten our sections. The one we missed has to do with cider, and I assume that's hard cider, not the stuff I go up to the Cold Hollow and buy. Okay. All right, so Tucker, tell us what the bill does for and cider is sold in a second class license, right? Or it depends on the amount of alcohol?
Good afternoon, Tucker Anderson, Legislative Counsel. Yes, hard ciders are sold second-class locations or your first-class bars and restaurants that serve beer and wine. The cap on cider alcohol by volume is the same as other vinous beverages because they are defined as vinous beverages: wine, mead, cider, things like that. Currently, cider is taxed at the 55-cent per gallon rate because it is a vinous beverage. If you go to section 28 of the proposal from Senate Economic Development.
You give us a page number, Tucker.
Yes, I speak sometimes too laconic and slowly, so you ask before I say it, but it's page 29 into page 30. Very specifically on page 30, if you look at lines 14 and 15, at least in the version that I have, that's subdivision A3, or excuse me, called out the wrong line. 1 capital B, which is line 5 on page 30. It changes the tax on ciders that contain less than 7% alcohol to 26.5 cents per gallon. That's the rate that beers under 6% are currently taxed at. So for ciders under 7%, there is a decrease in the tax from 55 cents to 26.5 cents per gallon.
Okay. Graham, what's the impact?
Graham Campbell from the Joint Fiscal Office. I apologize for not bringing this to the committee and completely missing this when I was looking at the fiscal impacts of the bill. But I have been in contact with the Department of Taxes and some folks over at Stowe Cider who helped put together some information on this. But we are estimating that this will reduce general fund revenues by $160,000 per year. That does not seem like a lot of money. But that money is not accounted for in the House budget, or not the House budget, in any budget right now. And so as the budget conferees get together and hash out the budget, they are not able to accommodate this $160,000 decrease in revenue. So what that means is if this committee is interested in moving forward with this proposal, then you will have to find some way to make it up. That can happen within this bill. Can happen in another bill, or it could happen perhaps in, for instance, in the H510 Committee of Conference. You might leave a little bit of extra money on the bottom line. But bottom line is that this $160,000 for cider is not accommodated for in the budget. So if you move forward with this proposal, you'd have to somehow cover it.
And the senator who brought this proposal suggested to me that if, rather than not do it or have to, I really hate to make, this has nothing, to have something else laid on 510, which is going to be a difficult committee of conference, I think, that we just move the enactment date out a year so that it can be accommodated in next year's budget. That was Senator Westman. So I assume it'll get some support on appropriations.
could also just increase this weird mandatory.
You can't. Look at that because they already spent that, you have to increase it in the budget as well. And apparently appropriation chair don't want to do that as well.
Increase this weird, which.
And I was told that the budget is pretty much settled. Thus, I can have Senator Westman for the 510 conference committee.
I would say if you did push the effective date out for the cider provision, then you would have no fiscal impact in fiscal year 23. It would only take effect in fiscal year 24, so it would not have an impact on this year's budget. So I believe the numbers would shake out on that.
So Tucker, can we do that? Really quick?
Yes, but the amendment will have to have two sections amending 7 VSA section 421. Because if you delay that section as it's written now, that also delays the tax on the ready to drink spirits beverages. So if that's how the committee would like to proceed, I can absolutely draft the amendment that way. There would be two sections, 28 and 28A, and 28A would contain just the ready to drink spirits beverage update, and 28 would have the ciders, with 28 being enacted a year from now. Yeah,
Okay.
a year from July.
Brenda Hardy?
Thanks. Tucker, maybe you're not the right person to ask this, but what was the rationale for decreasing this tax? Is it supposed to make it comparable to other things or something?
Staff does not always know our rationale. Maybe we should ask Senator Sirotkin.
That's what it was.
It makes it comparable with what,
Yeah.
beer and
Wine.
With beer, the lower alcohol volume beer is 26 cents. This presently is taxed at 55 cents.
is higher alcohol beer taxed at a higher rate than it's.
Okay, so
So it's a coincidence. Why are we moving it over there? Is it from one place to the other and losing the revenue?
Well, that's not what we're talking about now. We're looking at the cider thing.
we're losing the revenue because we generally tax according to the amount of alcohol in a drink. Cider, and this is only cider, so if you got some 100 proof hard cider, it's gonna get taxed a lot more. This is, I don't know, cans, bottles. I should pay attention to my kids. Yeah, that, but has less than 6%. So it's very low amount of alcohol. And wine at that price, or beer, wine I don't know gets that low. Beer with that low alcohol beer gets taxed at that rate. And if you increase the tax on beer, Mrs. Murphy will come to haunt you.
I wasn't talking about the beer, I was talking about the change that's being
Yeah,
proposed.
it's the amount of alcohol.
For the cider thing, is that what you're talking
Cider,
about?
yeah.
That's what we're talking about here.
The revenue loss results.
Certain amount of revenue, now we're gonna collect less, and
Well,
I'm trying to analyze the different reasons for collecting less, and what the impetus was that set about to collect less revenue.
To sell more, so we'll get more revenue. I know, Senator Sirotkin, what's your rationale?
The rationale is that the shelf space that's going to be freed up in the liquor stores will be replaced by even higher margin products, and consumers the evidence is that consumers are very interested in buying this product, and the big thing for me is that the alcohol content is the same as beer and wine, which is presently in the grocery store. So let's give the consumers a choice, and we're not going to lose any money.
Will the price change in the grocery store, or is that up to the grocery store?
No, it's estimated to be very similar to theirs.
To what it is?
Yeah.
So
poor people that are inclined to drink Boone's Farm or hard
is
cider will
Madam
pay
Chair.
less. And will get more from the high end.
Why are we giving up the revenue for a product that people are buying now? And what's the rationale behind,
Senator Surratt.
this is part of the governor's tax rebate, or
No.
what is it?
Senator Surratt.
They're saying that we're not giving up the revenue. There is no revenue loss. Just think about it as a warehouse full of liquor. Okay? They're full up. They're gonna move part of their inventory to the grocery store, and they're still gonna be full up because there's gonna be premium liquors coming into the liquor store. And they're gonna make the same amount of money, if not more, on the new product that's gonna be in the liquor store.
And you're cutting the taxes collected on this thing you're moving out,
Correct.
because
Because of the way the setup works of 802 liquor versus the beer distributor.
Right. We are not selling it, we are not distributing it once it goes to the grocery store. It gets distributed
but the prices likely remain the same, so where's that money going?
to the,
Distributors.
The
And the grocery
distributors
store.
distributors who are now trucking the stuff to the store as opposed to the Department of Liquor and Lottery, who now does all the delivery to the store, to the liquor stores.
Still watching the shelves move around and
Think of it this way, and I don't like this, so I'll try to explain as I understand it. Right now, the state is the middleman because we put them into the state liquor stores. So the state makes a bunch of the money. After we put them into the convenience stores, someone else will make the money because the price will be the same. And in this case, most of it, people tell me, are gonna go to the distributors.
but the state will then be the distributor for more higher end products. So the state, this is all an estimate, will make more revenue selling the higher end. The other alternative is we could build great big liquor stores like they do other places and sell it all. But that's, they wouldn't have one in Orange County. I mean, it wouldn't.
squeezing.
Sarah Bray is eager to ask.
Yes, Senator Bray.
So I thought the other part of the story that we haven't got to, maybe address the Senator McDonald's concern, is that we have this sort of taxing anomaly going on. We're depending upon the source of the alcohol, whether it was distilled versus it was from a malt beverage fermentation process versus it was fermenting like agave, like different sources of alcohol. At the same level, we're getting a different level of tax depending on where they came from. And this says, regardless of where the alcohol is coming from, distilled or malted, whatever, you're going to tax at the same level by alcohol level. So it's, to me, it seems like a leveling of the playing field, and then you let the products compete. Consumers will choose, not pushed by taxing, they'll choose which ones they want. It's letting the market steer and letting each product in the market compete on a level playing field. That's my take on it.
So we take a can from this store and we send it to that store. We sell it in the next store at the same price. Playing field is being
Well,
level.
we're getting sales tax on it.
Where's the level in the playing field? We're cutting the taxes on it when it gets here.
The unlevel part was that tax attributable to alcohol was varied by the source of the alcohol as opposed to the alcohol level.
I don't think that, we're only changing that on one type, just cider, not across the board.
Right.
So I'm curious, I mean, Senator Pearson did a good job of explaining the winner and the loser in terms of the distributor and the state. The distributors are the winners. The state is the loser in terms of the distribution
Of the,
revenue.
basically, our RTD,
And I'm
that's the
curious,
big one.
who else are the winners and the losers? And in clear terms, in terms of the financial winners and losers, because we're making up the loss to the state by using this direct app, which is a really silly term. It's just the money that DLL earns for selling the alcohol. So if we're not having that is state money already. It's not, DLL is not a separate entity, they're part of the state. So we're just telling them, oh, instead of using that to run your program, you have to send it to the general fund, because the general fund is going to be losing this tax revenue. So it's a loss to the state. It's still a loss to the state because we're using state money to replace state money. So that's a loss to the state, a gain to the distributors. Who else are the winners and the losers?
I don't think it's a loss to the state. The way the budget is done, they budget in direct apps that they expect the department to receive in the next year based upon their inventory and what they're selling. And even though it sounds like it's a guarantee and it's an arbitrary number, and it is, because there's a little bit of questioning whether they're going to achieve that, so they give that guarantee. But it is an approximation of what their money that they have available to pass back to the state. So I don't think people over in that room think it's a loss to the state. They think that's the approximate amount of money the department will have to give over. So in my mind, the other winners are the consumers. And Senator Bray has pointed out that right now we have White Claw and other fermented canned cocktails on the shelf that have the same alcohol level that we're putting on, and that are also canned cocktails, but they're made without spirits. They're made in a brewing process, but they get the same alcohol content, and they're out there in the grocery stores right now. And these particular distillers in Vermont want to be able to market these products in the grocery store, and I can understand that. There are 78 outlets in the state of Vermont through the liquor stores, and there are 1,200 grocery and convenience store.
But are these
So we're
Vermont
running out of market
products?
them in the grocery stores. Why are we choosing to lose income?
Senator McDonald, I was trying to ask a bunch of questions.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's,
I'm trying to understand who the winners and losers are, and so the companies that make these RTDs that this bill is trying to move into the grocery store, those are not Vermont companies that make these.
That's the people who are pushing it. There are 2 companies that already make that, and there's a series of companies that are ready to go, like Smuggler's Notch Distillery, and they have platforms, and they're not ready to launch until they can see they have a marketplace. So there are 2, High Noon or something it's called, that are already in the liquor stores.
And who, and the tax change, there's the one we just discussed with Tucker and Graham that was missed, the on cider.
Yeah.
Is there another tax rate change in the bill?
Yeah, I would leave that to Graham. It's a different paradigm. It's a different way of taxing.
That's correct. There is a different tax rate. So by taking RTD out of the DLL and putting it into the retail sector.
Senator McDonald,
Yes.
I have a feeling Graham is about to answer the heart of your question, and so I would encourage you to follow along.
Okay.
By taking the RTD beverages out of DLL, the bill also subjects them to a different tax rate. Under the current system, these RTD beverages pay the 5% liquor tax on their sales, on their gross sales. When they are moved out into the retail model, they will pay a new $1.10 per gallon tax at the wholesale level.
So does that amount to an increase or a decrease by volume? It's hard to tell when they're not, it's not an apples to apples comparison.
It's not an apples to apples comparison. The state loses a tiny bit of money on that swap, but not a significant amount. It's about, it's less than $20,000 a year.
Okay, Commissioner Knight.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify for the committee, when we talk about a loss in revenue to the state, there is no loss in revenue to the state from the department that sells the liquor. So when I sent you earlier is that the RTD categories that we're suggesting move out to the private sector represent less than 1% of our total sales. So when we have 36 different categories of distilled spirits. So if we happen to have one category, we have less of something, the state doesn't lose money, the department doesn't lose money. We sell more of something else or we add a new product. And the example I tried to share with you earlier is that last summer when we had 20% we had products that we had 20% out of stock. So 20% of our high volume products were out of stock by suppliers. So national suppliers couldn't give Vermont the product. So we had to substitute other products, find other products to put on the shelves so that we didn't have empty shelves and we didn't lose money. In fact, we saw an increase of 7%. So that was so when Graham has to do his fiscal note, as you know, he has to say, okay, this is what we're earning now, and this is what we would earn differently with a change in the law. But there is no loss to the state because it's a business and we continue to sell different products, right? And I think that Senator Sorokin explained that. If we have 36 products and we have a little fewer of one, we don't lose money, we just sell other products. So when we talk about a loss in revenue to the state, it's not an actual loss in revenue to the state because the department as a business has the ability to make that up, as we've seen last summer in our out of stocks, when you actually had 20% out of stock and yet we still made money.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if we are going to take these products and send them to supermarkets and sell more of them and then make it up with more volume being sold in the liquor stores, we are by definition selling more stuff than we used to. Is that correct?
We don't sell any more stuff that goes to the grocery store. It's in the
No,
private sector.
we're making more revenue.
We have, no, this is sales and volume. We have producers that are ready to sell more stuff. Apparently they don't have a place to sell it and they're waiting for this so that they can sell this extra product. Is that what's gonna happen?
Yes.
In which case, the state should be getting the extra revenue that comes with the extra product being sold, and breaking even is a loss. We keep having explanations that don't match up the money to the sales.
I think the bottom line, Senator, and I will look to the commissioner, is you've got to stack a whole bunch of 4-can RTDs on a shelf to equal the same amount of revenue you might get from one bottle of high-end tequila. And we don't have room to put all those kinds and volume in our state stores.
Okay.
Okay, did I hear that correctly, Commissioner?
Yes, so when we take the low alcohol RTDs and we move them to the private sector, we're expanding the market. You're going from 80 stores to 1,000 or whatever. And that's part of Graham's fiscal note that says that the sales revenue from that will actually increase. The question that is a bit confusing when Graham talks about the markup. So as the sole distributor of distilled spirits in the state of Vermont, we buy distilled spirits at a cost. We mark them up, and that's the retail price. That markup is about 45%. It varies by category, but Graham is saying with these low ABV RTDs, the markup is about 45%. That's what gets lost or transferred to the private sector. So when you move that, the state isn't collecting that markup. Who is collecting that markup now is all those retailers and all those wholesalers. That's the private sector. That's one of the reasons why we're proposing this bill, is because the governor wants to grow the economy. He's interested in having Vermont businesses earn profits. He's less interested in having the DLC retain that, because he knows by moving that tiny fraction of our categories to the private sector, one, it grows the economy. Because we're an enterprise fund and we run a business, we have other products to replace the low ABV RTDs. So we will not lose money because we've taken a product that represents less than 1% of our sales. We will not lose money.
Okay, I think the one thing that's still in there, Graham, there is still a tax on these RTDs, right? And so if we sell more, we're going to make more in tax revenue. Is that correct?
Yes, but so on the tax rate side, the state, even though I'm projecting that you're going to sell more, the state will still lose a tiny bit of money. But that's just because the 5% liquor tax is it generates more revenue on a per gallon basis than just this $1.10 per gallon tax that you're putting on it. So the state doesn't make up the money by selling more on the tax. Commissioner Knight is right that we, from our perspective at JFO, we do not believe that this will cause the state to lose money, because not necessarily because the commissioner has the ability to stock higher products, but because you all in the bill, I shouldn't say you all, the House and the Senate Economic Development Committee have put in this mandatory direct app. So what it says is essentially is guaranteeing that the Department of Liquor and Lottery will shield the general fund from any revenue loss. So, but it gives the commissioner and the Department of Liquor and Lottery the ability to sort of figure out how to make it happen. And so we are in agreement I'm in agreement with the commissioner that I don't believe this will be a revenue loss to the state so long as that direct app language is in there. I think the commissioner correctly states that they have the ability to replace these products on the shelves at 802 spirit stores with other products, but just to make sure that the general fund does not lose money, there is this mandatory direct app language in there to sort of as like a belts and suspenders approach to make sure that it happens. And that's, I think, how this bill ends up being revenue neutral on the RTD side. The revenue negative for this bill at the moment is the cider tax change, which is a decrease in the tax paid on cider.
And we decided if we move that out a year, we can eliminate that loss. Senator Pearson.
Graham, I'd like your help on the direct app understanding. Like what page is that on? It's on toward the end, I think, right? 20, I don't know, I've lost it. But it's 20, it's guaranteeing quote unquote revenue for the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's on page 37. It guarantees, it says to the Department of Liquor and Lottery that you are required to send at least $20.4 million in money from your enterprise fund to the general fund in 23, and in 24 you have to send a minimum of $21.2 million a year. Those two numbers reflect what we at JFO project would have gone to the general fund.
Yeah, you explained that. Yeah. You explained that well yesterday. What I don't understand is the source of that money is the enterprise fund, correct?
Correct.
So if they only have, and it's basically the balance left in the enterprise fund at the end of the year, isn't that right?
The balance in the enterprise, the balance in the enterprise fund is basically what is left after they sell and then account for all the costs of their cost of goods sold and for the cost of operating the Department of Lottery.
And you all have estimated that next year it'll be 20.4 million.
No, so it's not directly tied to it. The direct app is not a sweep to the general fund where it's just whatever's left over we take. The department makes a recommendation. So it's not necessarily the entirety of what's left over. Sometimes there are retained earnings in the fund, so they have some surplus. Sometimes they direct app more than what is in the enterprise fund. So it's not just after you're done selling everything and after you're done accounting for your expenses, then send us whatever's left over. That's not how it works. It is a recommendation every year in the budget from the department about what they feel comfortable sending to the state after accounting for their expenses. So for instance, the recommended direct app this year coming in the governor's budget was actually $19.4 million, if I remember right. And that number did not represent the entirety of the profits for DLL last year. It represented a recommended figure, and it left the Department of Liquor and Laundry with a little bit of money sitting in the enterprise fund after the direct app.
And so if they have a little bit of money, they can make their own investments because they're an enterprise fund that's quote unquote like a business. But what if they have less? What if this is a fabricated target in the sense of it's an estimate. I'm sure it's based on our experience, obviously, but what if they actually have 5 million less? I mean, we can't fire people retroactively. So help me understand how we're protecting, I see that we're asking for this, but I just don't understand where there's actually much wiggle room. This is effectively a state agency that has to meet its costs. Is the price of vodka going to go up if in the last 2 months of the fiscal year to make up for it? I don't understand.
So I think what you're asking is, are we concerned about the state of the enterprise fund and the ability to fund the liquor and lottery because we're taking these out of the department's portfolio? Is that the question?
Well, I don't understand how. Why don't we just make it 22 million? I'd like a little more. And it's based on what we're estimating their sales to be, but that takes on faith that they can make up the difference once we move this profit center out. And that's what I'm not understanding is what if we're wrong? What if it is only 19.4? Where does that extra million then come from, which we've mandated by law? You see what I say?
Yeah. So I guess I'd somewhat defer to the commissioner on this, but I would say so. In the House's bill, the department testified that they could meet that direct app. But what that direct app does is it gives the department the flexibility to make that direct app. So the department has the ability to generate profits through lots of different ways. It could stock different things, it could raise prices, but the legislature is not directing the department to do that. What it's saying is that we don't necessarily care how you get there, but you have to return this. So if department would have to knowingly miss their target and still in order to have trouble meeting this direct app. But as the department has testified in the House that they believe they can make that direct app, because even without making any sort of business decisions, they would be able to cover this direct app in fiscal year 23 without having to make any business adjustments whatsoever, because they have retained earnings in the fund. But I would defer on any other details to the commissioner on that.
Thanks.
Can I ask a
Yes,
question, Graham?
please.
So Graham, you said that this year the department gave 19.4 or something like that. Or what was the number you said?
They recommended that in the governor's budget, but the legislature is assuming this direct app in this language, which is 20.4.
Okay, so even before this bill was proposed, they are supposed to give a certain amount to the general fund every year through a direct app. So is this money in this bill on top of what they already give, or it is what they're supposed to give, including what they already give?
It is the entirety of what they're going to give.
So it is a loss because they already are giving money to the general fund every year. So it's if they were supposed to give 19 point whatever this year, and we're asking for 21 or something, that's only an increase of 3 million. So the rest of it is a loss because it would have come anyway.
So they recommended this year that they were going to send 19.4 million in the governor's budget. And what that recommendation left the department with, I believe, somewhere between $2 and $3 million sitting in the enterprise fund. And so basically what they were saying is we're going to send the general fund 19.4 and we're going to hold on to 2 to 3 million.
What did they send last year?
They sent more than that, like 22.4. But it's my understanding that they over direct apt the past 2 fiscal years. And so the 19.4 was an attempt to sort of get back towards what is more sustainable for the enterprise fund.
Yeah, so this math does not make sense to me.
Okay, let's let Commissioner Knight see if she can explain how this works.
Thank you. So I would like to address Senator Pearson's question first, which is what happens if the revenues don't meet the direct app? And that's exactly what happened last year and the year before. The finance and management took more than what the sales were, primarily because there was a big project that went over budget. So there was a big point of sale project that went $5 million in over budget. So it wasn't that there was a loss of sales, but there was a direct app. 22.7 million was taken as the direct app, and that left the department with a deficit of I think $2 million. So as an enterprise fund, you just continue to operate in a deficit. If you remember Vermont Life, one of the reasons why the legislature decided to we close that down is because that ran in a deficit. It was also an enterprise fund. And for 10 years running, it ran as a deficit. So that's what happens with an enterprise fund. So to address the question here, because we have, even with the increase in the $1 million, now the $1 million increase was something that House Ways and Means wanted as a guarantee. Even with that increase to 20.4 million, Graham is indicating to you, and that's correct, is that we will estimate closing out the fiscal FY23 at 2.5 million in the black. So we have that cushion, and that's designed so that we can start paying back the enterprise fund, apparently from the last 2 years. And so the other thing that I've been explaining is because we operate a business, like we have the ability to do a lot of different things within the business by selling product so that there is no deficit and there will be no loss to the state.
But Commissioner, if traditionally the department direct apps, it's so funny that we've turned this into a verb, money to the general fund in the range of $20 million, 19 million or 21 million or whatever. This bill requires a direct app of 21 and then
20 million, 20.4. It was increased by $1 million.
But the loss in tax revenue from moving the RTDs into the grocery stores is more than just the difference between what you normally give to the general fund and what this slight increase is that you're giving to the general fund. You already give to the general fund every year a certain amount, right? This is not a new direct app.
Correct. It's an increase in the direct app.
By only a couple $1 million or right?
No, by $1 million.
By $1 million, but the loss in tax revenue is larger than $1 million, isn't it?
No,
it's not. Because the Senate Economic Development Committee removed the fortified wines part out of the bill. In effect, what is actually happening is the this direct app it exceeds what we are projecting to be the revenue loss for the state from the markup. So that just the markup loss on RTDs is about $570,000 we estimate in fiscal year 22. So if the goal was to just make those a 1-for-1, then the direct app would have only increased by that roughly that amount. So in a sense, the direct app that is mandated in this bill is actually more than the department would need to direct app if it wanted to cover just the cost of the RTDs.
Okay, Senator Pearson.
Graham, can you remind us when Vermont Life didn't meet its mark, what did we do year after year?
I don't know, but I know Vermont Life was shut down a couple of years ago.
Didn't we appropriate money to bring them up to zero?
I don't know.
Graham wasn't here.
Okay.
I think we may have appropriated some money, but I don't think it brought them to zero. I know we put requirements on them. Okay. And that's always possible. People stop buying magazines or coffee table magazines. People may well stop drinking high-end liquor. And then the enterprise, no, but then the enterprise fund will have to address its marketing strategy.
Why are we cutting the taxes on alcohol at the same time we are growing the amount of alcohol we sell?
Well, do you really not understand? Because you keep asking the same question and you keep getting the answer. So there's an entirely different scheme when you sell something in the liquor store than in the convenience store. And we're taking something that's in the liquor store and putting it in the convenience store. So the whole scheme is different.
But we're gonna sell a greater number of widgets than used to be sold. Why can't the state's revenues be an equal increase in earnings as the increase in the number of widgets, regardless of which place they're sold
The
in?
two schemes, because the two schemes are totally different.
The grocery store
We're
is
talking about
paying,
reducing tax rates on some of the widgets.
no, the grocery store is paying, we make our money because we buy it, we sell it, we get the markup. All right? The grocery store is now gonna pay its clerk and its lights and its heat, and the distributor's gotta pay his truck driver. And they all wanna make a profit. So they're keeping that. That is the bulk of what's going. They, just like they buy crackers and bread and cheese. They buy it, they mark it up, they sell it, they keep the product. Or they keep the profit.
Maybe not.
All right, I'm good. It is getting late. We have one more bill. I think,
Can I just ask one question?
Yes.
There's a study in here that asks in a year and a half, the department to come tell us what's gonna happen with what's going on with ready to drink spirits. And I can't help but notice that we're making the change and then studying the impact. And I guess I'm tempted to have the analysis come before we make the change.
What a radical idea.
okay. Commissioner
I know this
Knight,
committee never does that.
Yeah, it's not a study. It's actually, they wanted a look back. They called it a look back. So they want me to share 2 years worth of data to look to see the impact. And as Senator Clarkson said, to ensure that what I said was going to happen actually happened. So it's not a study, but good point, Senator Pearson. The other things are actually studies to give us information, then to make some decisions.
Well, it is called a study, but I appreciate that you
Yes.
look back.
all right. And I mean, if there's a recession, that will impact alcohol sales. I don't know if it'll be up or down. COVID impacted alcohol sales. If you deal in retail, there's you ought to try selling things on Black Friday when the market crashed. was one of my more unpleasant experiences. You know, things happen in the economy and people adjust their spending habits, and we can't predict all of those. Right now, this is what apparently the commissioner and the committee on on economic development, it is Friday evening. Things will work. We're being asked to consider the revenue impact. Yes, we are going to wrap up by 5. Never leave this room. Okay, so we're looking at the revenues and at the predicted, you know, the impact on the state. Graham is saying, other than the cider, it looks like this, for the time being, is negligible. And,
Which would be fine if sales weren't going up.
okay. And Senator, you are free to propose an amendment or to vote no. But unless we have a suggestion as to how we fix that, I'm not sure what you want us to do.
Just will cut taxes on some of the sales.
It changes the taxes, yes.
So let's not do that.
Well, then you have an inequity in taxes.
We have an inequity in taxes now. If people
Okay.
buy the stuff
That
now,
Senator, let's, what I'm gonna end up doing is canceling this today and moving on to Montgomery. Or you can,
Could we simply move the question, Madam Chair? I think
well,
we-
if somebody would make that motion,
I'll make a motion to do the Westman delay on cider.
okay, and Tucker, do you have
You want to
that?
delay something?
what's the effect of that?
Delay the
It's not
cider.
accounted for.
Delay.
Oh, yeah.
It-
Got it.
Just the
Yeah.
cider, 1 year out.
When you're out.
Yep.
Because there is a tax loss and
Right.
it is not accounted for in the revenues in the budget.
Is there a tax loss on things in addition to cider or just?
Right now, this is just on extending the change in the tax rate or the type of tax on cider for 1 year, nothing else.
Is that the only reduction in liquor taxes?
No, in this amendment, it is.
Just talking about cider.
It's only
So
talking about,
there are other places where the tax on the product would be lowered if this bill passes.
It's different, but we will talk about that next.
okay.
It's hard to, because you're not speaking the language of the actual setup of the universe. So it's,
Okay.
I don't know how to help you.
There will be more sales tax as a result of this, and it'll come to the state. There will be more sales, and there will be more sales tax. Okay? But the rest of the taxation is a
Wait, Senator
different.
Hardy, where are you going?
I have to go to another meeting about this.
Okay, I'd like to get you
You've
here
got a
to
motion
vote.
on the table.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion to extend the implementation date of the cider tax change for 1 year. And Tucker, I assume you can send us, you can email us the wording for that? Okay, further.
Yes, it's, I've written it in a clean copy I can send to you in a minute or two when it's saved by the editors.
Okay, so further discussion? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, say no. I'm seeing that as 601. All right,
Now move to the bill as
Senator Sorokin has moved the bill as amended. Any discussion?
Chair,
Yes.
I may be obtuse. And I don't understand. One of the witnesses said the governor's policy was to expand the sales and make more business, more commerce, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe that if you're expanding the sales, you're expanding the business and making more commerce, you will also be raising more revenues because we tax the sales and commerce. And it appears that we're cutting the taxes at the same time, so. I oppose it perhaps out of ignorance or my own feelings on it, but I'm not, I oppose it. So, it'll make a lot of difference.
We might have a break around.
This,
Is there an amendment?
yes, a very long amendment. And 738 was 700, right?
738.
The miscellaneous tax.
I think we should let move on to appropriations. Oh, that's all right.
What moment, but some of the
Yeah.
things
okay.
were
Reminds me of the
made at this moment.
recount power.
Getting it sort of brought to.
Yes, we voted out
We went for profits, they
512,
didn't get it.
269,
Oh,
709,
512, I'm sorry.
right? Modernizing, no, yes, we voted out modernizing. But that's the, that's the clerks, the notaries.
Notaries, yes.
I was not there for that one, so that was.
So who is reporting?
I'm reporting the,
You're reporting that.
Yeah, we got that.
That's Senator McDonald, 269.
That's the,
That's the one you're
That's
doing, the
Did you brought that
town
up?
can retain.
You brought that upstairs.
709 is the airports, that's Senator Brock. And 261. What is, no, 261.
I have to go to this thing, so.
Okay, go, we're,
No, we're
269 was the pilot.
yes, 269 is the pilot and 261. Oh, that's the,
Senator
that's
already-
the,
so there's a motion, Madam
That's
Chair. I know we need the staff
yes,
here,
we
but
do need a
we've
motion.
got Senator Bray. No, we've got a motion.
We
It's-
have a motion
can
from
move.
Senator Sorokin to approve the bill as amended. Have we got any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
No,
I've got 3-3.
no, you've got Bray.
Yeah, well, Bray's not, oh, Bray is there. Okay, so it's 3-4.
4-3.
4-3. It, Senator Sorokin, you're going to report this.
Yes.
You like an aspirin?
I'd like something heavier.
We have one more bill, folks, which is 745, and Tucker is here. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tucker. Why do we have the charter of the town of Montgomery?
You have H745, the Charter of the Town of Montgomery.
Yes, we
Yes.
do.
They are
Why? I've never
adopting-
had a charter.
Sales tax.
They are adopting a charter in order to impose a local option tax on sales, meals, alcoholic beverages, and rooms. The Montgomery Charter is a bit unique in that it is going to be tied to general law, except that they have put in their charter that they will have the current share of pilot as a floor, so that if the general law is decreased at any point in the future, they will be guaranteed to stay at 70% of the share of the local option tax. And it is also unique in that they have dedicated their local option tax to a very specific purpose and a specific fund, which will support the town and village center water and wastewater system. And House Ways and Means amended 745 so that at the time, all of the debt obligations that support the wastewater system are paid off by the local option tax. The local option tax will sunset. And that was the understanding that the voters had when they took up this proposal in Montgomery. And it was the purpose of adopting the local option tax generally.
Okay. I'm losing this. I've still got,
We can do this fast, right?
yes.
Yeah, sure.
Can I get a motion or do we want more?
Which
text?
bill are we on now?
745,
Montgomery charter
Charter.
change for a local option.
right. And we did pass it saying anybody can do local option.
Yeah, I know.
We did. This is our first
Yeah.
request.
So I would move page 745 favorably.
Okay, Senator Pearson has moved page 745 favorably.
Hey, doesn't say it, voting sheets.
Just write it
As
down.
often as she presses the button.
Okay, just write it down. 745 favorably. All right,
Charter of. Okay.
yes. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those say no. That carries 403. All right. Who's gonna report?
You earned a drink yet, Madam Chair? You can do better. What's your leave?
I'm-
I think I'm headed to the protest office,
You can have the drink in Montgomery, but it will cost you 1% more than it did before we did this.
but less than, yeah, I know.
I'll-
You'll do this one? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, committee, thank you, staff. We are back here, as far as I know, at 1:30 on Monday. We have 5:10 committee of conference from 11 to 1. And
11 o'clock, okay.
11 o'clock, we're on the
Monday.
floor at 10,
You the reporter. Okay.
yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you, Senator Bray, rest up. Feel better, and we'll see you.